Sorry.
Welcome. Welcome to all of you who have gathered here this afternoon to celebrate the life of Brian Dolman. For those of you who may not know me, my name is Jim Hannah, and I'm the minister here at Winfield United Church. And on behalf of this community, I want to welcome you to our home, a home that is also a home for Madeline and Brian. I am honored to be here to be part of this special time of remembrance and celebration. I also welcome you on behalf of Madeline, Maggie, Mag, however you know her, and Colin and Sean and the rest of the family who so appreciate your presence here. Honestly appreciate your presence here and are so very grateful for the support that you have shown through the past week. As we begin, I would ask you to be sure that you turn any of your electronic devices to the off or silent or vibrate mode. Immediately following our service today, the family will retire for a very short time to the room just off of the sanctuary here, just to collect themselves, and then we'll come back in here, and we encourage you to stay for a time of conversation and greeting and refreshment that will happen right in this space. By the time the service is done, you may want a breath of fresh air, and you're welcome to step out for that. But please come and be with the family following the service. We are here today to remember and celebrate the life of Brian, husband, father, grandfather, son, brother, uncle, and dear friend. We gather as family and friends that have been touched by his spirit. And we gather to say goodbye, as hard as that is to do. And so together we remember and celebrate his life this afternoon in a more intentional way. And so I would invite each of you to take a moment now to think about the relationship that you had with Brian as husband, as father, as grandfather, as son, as uncle, and as friend. And hold that experience close as we spend this time with him. Please pray with me. Holy One, source of all life, we gather here aware of the Spirit that is in this place. May we feel the presence of that Spirit in our own lives, in our thoughts and our feelings as we remember and honor Brian. May we know the presence of the Spirit of Brian in the moments before us. And may we know the power of your Spirit to share the pain of our loss and to lead us to a place of peace and unbounded compassion. Open us to love. Amen. We're going to sing together, Healer of Our Every Ill, which you will find on the screen before you. Dolman, son of Sylvia and Terence, was born on July 21st, 1949 in Perth, Scotland. Although he lived in Scotland only a few short weeks, there is no question that his Scottish heritage would have a long-term impact on his life and his loves. This new family, however, would move to England, where Brian would spend his formative years along with his younger sister Pam. He studied tool and die making, which would become the millwright work, the jack of all trades work, as he called it. That would be his life vocation. And it was in Sutton, England in 1968 that Brian met Madeline. Actually, they were set up. Madeline was just 15 when they met. Apparently, Madeline made a habit of tagging along with her older sister Annette on her dates. And Brian had the same habit of tagging along with someone on their dates. The older couples decided to hook up the respective taggers so that they could gain their own freedom. And their first date, only in England, was to a pub, where Brian gave Madeline very clear instructions on how to look confident and not to appear to be underage. They dated for 2 glorious weeks. And then Brian joined the Merchant Navy, and Madeline moved to Canada, settling in Calgary. You would think that they wanted to get as far away from each other as possible, but in reality, they kept regular correspondence through letters. And I'm told that they moved from ending initially with Brian, Madeline, to affectionately Brian, Madeline, to love, Brian, Madeline. This went on for several years, and then one day, a huge bouquet of flowers arrived at the place where Madeline was living in Calgary, and Brian phoned. He was in Vancouver. Could she come to meet him? Now. Well, the girls that she was living with all pooled their meager resources, and they managed to put her on a plane to Vancouver. Although Madeline says that she doesn't actually remember flying, probably because she was lighter than air herself. Anyway, Brian met her at the airport, and there she was, in purple tights, tweed skirt, bright yellow blouse, with a matching bright yellow purse, and a bright green jacket. Well, it was the 70s. Apparently Brian said, "What the heck am I getting myself into?" But it's amazing what we can embrace when we are deeply in love. And so he proposed on the ship in Vancouver Harbor. It would be another couple of years before they'd see each other again. And Brian left the Merchant Navy, emigrated to Canada, and within a few weeks of his arrival, they were married at Westminster United Church in Calgary. Calgary would be home for the next 14 years or so, and that is where 2 beloved sons would be born. Colin in 1978 and Sean in 1980. Brian would work various jobs before finding the work he loved with Transport Canada as an airport maintenance supervisor, where he got, much to his delight, to fix and repair all manner of things. Although he loved the work, Brian had long dreamed of owning his own business, and so in 1989 packed up the family and moved to Kelowna, where he became the proud owner of the Hitch Shop, a custom shop for trailers and accessories. And then in the early 1990s, Brian joined Western Star, the trucking firm, where he would work until the plant closure in 2002. Brian would spend the years following working at a variety of jobs, always in millwright, always a jack of all trades, throughout BC and Alberta. Family and soccer were at the center of his life. And there's some dispute about which was closer to the center. I'm pretty sure I know. Brian loved his wife of nearly 39 years and his sons Colin and Sean. He was a deeply devoted grandfather. He loved the Settlers of Catan board game and would be disappointed if it wasn't part of every single family gathering. He even bought the children's version to play with his grandchildren. Brian loved Eric Clapton, among others, and loved it best cranked full volume. Just the way he lived. And Brian was always ready to help, whatever was needed, and would give you the shirt off his back, unless, of course, it was his Arsenal shirt. That's because his second passion was soccer, with a wee Scotch chaser. Brian played soccer, football, in England as a boy. Arsenal and England were his favorite teams. And his love would carry on in Canada, passing on the game to his sons, coaching them through their childhood, and trying very, very, very hard to get them to watch Soccer Saturday with him, with little success. His love of the game was for more than the win. It was about having fun, and it was about every single player having a fair chance at play. Brian was a key part of the group that would develop Beasley Field, and he was always very proud of being part of that. He also loved the Scotch tasting group that grew in part out of his soccer friends. He looked forward to those tastings 3 or 4 times a year. I'm very envious, by the way. And he would always bring Scotch eggs. The last time, apparently, just a very few weeks ago, he made the Scotch eggs with oatmeal because Brian, bless him, was becoming more cholesterol conscious. I have no idea what they tasted like. Perhaps someone here can tell us. His dream, one of his dreams, was to make it back to Scotland. Thought it would be a good 65th birthday gift. And he told Madeline that it would be fun to renew their wedding vows. But many suspect that was to soften her up to a distillery tour. That dream and his time with us ended abruptly, very abruptly, last Wednesday, as he made his way home. Brian will be missed, but not forgotten. In just a moment, I'm going to invite Sean and Colin to say a few words. There is going to be an opportunity, if there are a few words that you would like to share in remembrance, special memory, I'll invite to do that, so it's an opportunity to think about whether there's something you might want to share with these people gathered. And we'll start by having Sean.
My brother and I would like to thank you all for coming and attending our father's celebration of life. Our father was a great man who would go out of his way to help anyone in need. His generosity knew no bounds, as he would give you literally the shirt off his back. All of you being here today is a testament to the number of lives that he touched, and we are both grateful for the time that we had with him. My dad had many passions in life. He was always there for us, whether it was coaching us soccer, taking us downhill skiing, water skiing, camping, and even teaching us how to drive when we weren't even quite old enough. My brother remembers a time when we were learning how to drive down, or when he was driving downtown legally, and they got pulled over by a police car because the cop thought it was 2 kids going for a joyride. He never looked his age, and he never acted it either. My brother and I fondly remember playing soccer with his old-timer team, and particularly the post-game festivities, as they were better than the Slurpees we were accustomed to. I remember a time when our family went camping at Pike Lake, and my dad took us fishing, and I caught a really big fish. After I reeled in the fish to the boat, I looked at my dad and I said, "Grab it!" The teeth on this thing were huge. My dad looked at me and looked at the fish and said, "I'm not putting my hand in that mouth." Our father also enjoyed his scotch, and he looked forward to his scotch drinking club with all his friends. My brother actually helped select a few scotches with my dad, even though he can't stand the stuff. I don't know if you know, but my dad has a Triumph Spitfire. He was supposed to finish it for Colin's grad. But then he got busy. So then it was my grad. No, not yet. Maybe Colin's wedding? No, too busy. So then I threatened him with, if he got the Spitfire finished, I'd propose to Callie. Obviously, I couldn't wait that long. You see, that the thing about our dad was that he was always busy helping someone else. He didn't get the chance to finish as many projects he had. So if anyone knows how to fix up a Spitfire, please give my brother out. The most important thing about our dad is he loved his family. He loved his sister, his in-laws, and his nieces and nephews. He loved to play Lego and crafts and board games with his grandkids, Jade and Tyler. He loved to come visit his newest granddaughter, Charlize, and watch her run around. He made time to see our nan and take her out for coffee and walk around the mall. Above all else, he loved our mom. He may have joked and teased a little, but he showed us both what a happy family should be like. None of our accomplishments or successes in life would have been possible without the love and support he gave us in everything we did.
Thank you. Thank you. I understand Rob is here on behalf of the Soccer Association to say a few words.
I got size 14 font here, and I think I still need my glasses because they're all. It's like I'm underwater here, trying to see. That was beautiful, Sean. Thank you. I did get some correspondence before, so I just want to share that with everyone here. On behalf of our lads. On behalf of all the lads on the Brant's over 45 Men Soccer Club, we extend our deepest sympathies to Brian's family at this difficult time. We will remember Brian affectionately as a guy who always had a smile on his face and always had the time to chat and ask how things were going. We know he was a very valued member of our Lake Country Soccer, a treasure not easily replaced. A sad day for sure, but with a string of happy memories, having had the pleasure of knowing him. Sincerely, Andy Miller. When I think of Brian, certain words come to mind immediately. Generous, honest, hardworking, always helpful to others, considerate, thoughtful, a loyal friend, loving and caring husband, father, and grandfather. Family meant everything to Brian. A dear friend to so many, which is quite evident here today. I'm honored to speak today on behalf of our soccer club. Brian was a huge part of our organization for so many years. In many ways, he was the glue that helped to bond our team. It was Brian who would email the team, always encouraging us to come out, at times guilting us if we were down on subs, bribing us with smokies and beer after the game. Brian would often go out of his way, occasionally traveling great distances from his job to get every game. He was playing on Mondays for the over 45s and again on Thursdays with the over 55s, rarely missing a game. If he wasn't collecting money, he was handing out uniforms and schedules. He took such care of us, and for that we will forever be grateful. Just recently we had a conversation with him saying we always thought he would play soccer well into his 80s, even surpassing Angus's record. His level of fitness, youthfulness, sheer determination was incredible. Last week we played a game. I couldn't believe the number of people who came out to watch. Players that haven't played for a few years wanted to come out and show their respect for Brian. We played the game because Brian certainly would have been upset if we had missed the game. Which, by the way, we went on to win 3-1 against an undefeated Vernon squad. At one point, I didn't want to go in because of my strained Achilles, and Angus said, "Get in there and score one for Brian." My response was, "Do you really want me to go in and score on our own goal?" Brian sure had his fair share of own goals in the past. And I think a lot of it had to do with just he couldn't control. He was just out of control. Balls were bouncing everywhere, every part of his body and in the goal. We always knew. Yeah, sorry. We will certainly miss his lengthy stories. And boy, when he told a story, it took a while. Sometimes a story would start at the bridge in Kelowna, and he'd be finished when we got to Summerland. No one could say a word. I think we were too afraid in the back seat when Brian was driving. When he did tell a story, we really had a hard time understanding what he said. He spoke so fast at times, and his accent was always getting in the way. We always knew when to laugh, though, because he would give us those cues from time to time. So when Brian giggled, we laughed too. We will sorely miss his giggles. Brian devoted so much of his time to our soccer community, between the countless hours of coaching our youth, refereeing, and helping with the construction of our fields and clubhouse. He will certainly be remembered in our soccer community for his tireless contributions. Brian may have been little, but he had the biggest heart. We will miss our dear, bald-headed, dark-skinned Nick. Following the game on Thursday, we went out for our usual beers, nachos, and wings. Just sitting there, I looked around, and at that point I realized how very lucky we are to be surrounded by such good friends. To hear the constant bantering, the joking, the laughter, the cheers, the fighting over the last chicken wing. No one ever fought Brian for that lettuce at the end. Brian always had the lettuce at the end. We once again would like to thank Brian for keeping this group together for so many years. We have to continue to remind ourselves of what is really important in life. and that is spending time with family. In this case, it's our soccer family. We all know how much the Arsenal Football Club meant to Brian. So as a tribute, I would like to share this poem I found on the official Arsenal website. It's called If. If you can keep your voice when all about you are losing theirs and holding back their spew, if you can trust the crest knowing will come through and still pull on the kit that reeks of brew, if you can watch and not be tired of watching or being defeated, do not feel lost, or being doubted, don't give way to doubting, and yet follow AFC at any cost. If you can scream when just TVs can hear you, if you can wake and still proceed to dream, if you can watch from your pub and the pitch too, and in each setting get behind the team, if you can stand for a full game's duration despite wayward strikes urging you to faint, or monitor a game's live blog translations and scream Arsenal goal without restraint. If you can remember all our great winnings and the should-have-beens that ended in loss, and the legends that wore the cannon's markings, and cheer the current squad played by Boss. If you sing that you're Arsenal till you die, your song will carry on when you're gone, long gone. So sing and let it echo through the night sky. This is Arsenal. This cannon rolls on. Not quite done. Sorry. I really like Arsenal. See what he does to us? Makes us crazy. With the World Cup starting this Thursday, I want to ask you all to do something for Brian. And that is when your own country of choice isn't playing, I'd like you to all pull for England. I'm being serious, it's not a joke. I never thought I would see the day I would be cheering for an English squad. We always look forward to Euros and World Cup when our countries of choice go head to head, getting together for some good food, good drink, few drinks, and cheering on our countries. Brian, in all his soccer wisdom, once again chose England to win it all. He was the first one to enter the pool this year. You can tell he doesn't do a lot of research. He's predicted an England-Germany final in Brazil this year. And so I'll be cheering for England when Germany isn't playing. And I too am hoping his prediction is correct. So in the tradition of exchanging soccer jerseys, I'm going to put on an English jersey if someone would be kind enough to donate me one. And I have a German jersey for Sean and Colin to wear when Germany is playing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any others that wish to offer a word?
Maybe Adam couldn't be here, and so he sent an email for you and Sean and Colin, and so hopefully I can read it for you. This is Brian's nephew. There are not a whole lot of words that can express our feelings right now. We have been in shock and disbelief since first hearing the news last Wednesday. Jocelyn, the girls, and I really wanted to be there with you today to celebrate a wonderful life, but circumstances just wouldn't allow it. Please know that we are with you guys and love you very much. Uncle Brian will dearly be missed. He was the most selfless and caring man I have ever met or had the pleasure of knowing. I remember one August, my buddy Tim and I came to Kelowna for the weekend, and in typical fashion, we had not planned out where we were going to sleep. That's Adam. It was around 8 p.m. and getting dark, and our options were limited. So I did what anyone would do. I looked up my aunt and uncle in the phone book and gave them a call. Sure enough, Uncle Brian answered the phone, and when I explained our situation, he said the bed's already made and waiting for us as if it was the plan all along. He made sure we knew where we were going and offered to meet us along the way if needed. Then the next morning, I woke up to my Uncle Brian and my buddy watching soccer and drinking tea with Uncle Brian while he explained the ins and outs of the game to my non-sports fan friend Tim. Oh, where am I now? I don't know where I am. Okay. We weren't allowed to leave the house until we were good and full of breakfast and tea, and he was sure that we didn't need anything else. His family and friends meant so much to him, and he would give anything he had to give to make sure we knew that. He also had a smile that was so big and bright that it would light up every room that he walked into, and always was the first to offer up a big warm hug. Countless summers and holidays were spent in Kelowna, and everyone was so special to us. From camping to water skiing to skiing at Silver Star, we did it all. So many wonderful memories, and I will cherish them all. We all will. The one thing they all have in common is family. Uncle Brian was all about family, and you could tell that. From his love for you, Auntie Maggie, to his love for Colin and Sean, he was a man that we could look up to and strive to be. There is a hole in our hearts that will never be filled, but we can praise in the fact that we will see him again. This fact allows us to not mourn, but to celebrate. Uncle Brian is in glory right now with our Father. There is no need to be sad, although we will miss him. He knew death was not the end, but just the beginning, a truth that we know as well. Our thoughts and prayers are with you today as you celebrate the life of Uncle Brian. I want to leave you with these words. It is the last verse of In Christ Alone. These words helped me when Jocelyn's Nana passed away, and I hope they will do the same for you. No guilt in life, no fear in death. This is the power of Christ in me. From life's first cry to final breath, Jesus commands my destiny. No power of hell, no scheme of man can ever pluck me from his hand. Till he returns or calls me home, here in the power of Christ I'll stand. We love you all very much. God bless Adam, Jocelyn, Madison, and Marissa. And I too, like Rob said, his giggle is something I will always treasure and will miss with all my heart. We loved him so much, and we love all of you.
Are there any others that wish to offer a word?
We had the good fortune of having Brian work with us. I represent Toco Lavington, and Brian worked as a millwright. And he had the wonderful knack of brightening up your day, irrespective of how bad it was going. A couple minutes with Brian, and then life was good again. He was a wonderful, warm, and kind-hearted individual. And it didn't take very long at all before we loved him more than a fellow worker. We loved him as a friend. He was a wonderful human being. I want to tell you about my last day with Brian. Last time I had some time with him, I being a little older gentleman than myself, I was trying very hard to show due respect toward him, but it was very difficult because he'd fallen in a pail of oil. And I walked into the room to witness him with his gumboot pouring out the oil, and he's looking at me like this. I didn't see it there. And I'm very grateful that my last memory of my friend was such a joyous one. But I believe that it's hard to have a last memory of Brian that wasn't a joyous one, because if anything exemplified his life, it was that he was a joyous human being. And I didn't know that he had such a wonderful family, but it's just such a reflection of who he was. And his legacy, more important than anything that he put his hand to, although that was numerous, his legacy was how much he loved his family and loved his friends. And we'll remember him very fondly.
Thank you for all of those remembrances, those stories, and there will be opportunity over refreshment and through the next hours and days to share more of those remembrances. I offer you this piece of scripture, a piece that is dear to Madeline. From John chapter 14, verse 27, Jesus said to his followers, "Peace I leave with you, my peace I give to you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not let them be afraid." I didn't know Brian really well. I had been part of this community here for only 3 years, and Brian would often be working away from here, and that would make Sunday mornings a bit of a challenge. But I did know him well enough to see the gentle and passionate man that he was. It was clear that he loved life, loved family, worked hard, and played even harder. He had a presence when I was with him that radiated from a good and welcoming soul. And now we face the reality that Brian, husband, father, grandfather, brother, uncle, son, friend, is gone. Death stings, that is certain. And it is particularly difficult when death comes to someone that we know and love. That grief is often overwhelming when the death comes so unexpectedly and so tragically. No wonder so many of us want to know what comes after our physical death. We want to try to make sense out of this life we live and the end that each of us will ultimately face. But the reality is that no one knows what actually happens when we die. And perhaps that is the way it should be. Perhaps that helps us to value this life and try to live it more fully. That is certainly how Brian lived. But death still stings for those of us left to grieve the loss. I have personally experienced the loss of people I loved, as have all of you that have gathered in this place. I feel those losses, still wish that they were here with me. But I also feel something else, something I believe is even more profound. I didn't know how to name it until a few years ago, however, when a friend said to me, "Death ends a life, not a relationship." I thought long about that and realized that is what happened for me. Somehow, those that have left are still with me, still encouraging me, still cheering me on. I don't know what comes after death. No one does, even though many will try to convince you they know. Religion was created to try to give an answer to the question, why do we die? However, I believe religion has been unhelpful too often because of how we have historically understood God. When God is a being set apart from us, then God becomes in control of our destiny, deciding who will have good health and who will get cancer, deciding who will live a long life and who will have their life cut short. Frankly, I cannot find much comfort in this kind of God. And obviously the majority of people in our society agree, because fewer and fewer today find religion relevant. But this is not God for me, and many who call this church community home would say the same. Rather than God as a distant being, God is for us the source of all life, the ground of our being, the spirit of life within us, amongst us, and beyond us, the spirit of love and compassion. God is not separate from us because God is part of each of us. The mystery that is our soul, our very life spirit. And the life spirit that fills each of us is so much bigger and stronger than our physical bodies. The life spirit that fills each of us intimately connects us one to another. The life spirit that fills each of us is part of God, part of the cosmos that is more than any of us could ever imagine. And ultimately, I believe it is to that God that we return. This great spirit of love is eternal, and I believe that this eternal spirit, God, if you choose to call it that, implants in each creature at birth a little of that spirit, a soul, which creates in us a longing for meaning and purpose, and ultimately connection with the larger eternal Spirit of God. The God in you seeks and loves God like a homing device that never turns off. Brian was a wonderful example of one who was in touch with his homing device, his soul, his connection to God. Whatever the Spirit of God is for you, that Spirit does not demand that we are religious. It only asks that we live our life grounded in the spirit of love that is within each of us, that we might live and love very well. And it is this spirit, this homing device in Brian, that is now rejoined with that eternal spirit, the very heart of God. This, I believe, this gives me hope. This sustains me in difficult times, just like this. Brian, husband, father, grandfather, son, brother, uncle, and friend, continues to live in all of our relationships with him, spirit to spirit, soul to soul. Brian possesses a life spirit more powerful than we can know. And you have all witnessed glimpses of his spirit. And if you look deep into your own heart, you know that he continues to be with each and every one of you. I want to end with a little prayer that I discovered this week. I couldn't help but think of Brian as I read this, and as I share it with you, I would encourage you to think about this soccer prayer, this football prayer, as a metaphor for how Brian lived his life. Our Creator, who is in the field, hallowed be your game. Your free kick come. Your goal will be done on the field where I find heaven. Give us this day our daily kickoffs, and forgive us our fouls, as we forgive those who score against us. And lead us not into offside, but deliver us from penalties. For yours is the game, the power and the glory, for 90 minutes of it. Amen. Brian, your 90 minutes was not enough for us. You will be deeply missed. We feel your presence here in this place. We are thankful for all that you have been to each of us, and we look forward to all you will continue to be to each of us. May you be forever and ever in our hearts. Please pray with me. We have gathered to celebrate the life of Brian Victor Dolman. We have heard stories and shared remembrances. Perhaps we can feel Brian's presence with us, his blessed spirit in us and around us. May we open our hearts to all that is present. May we be mindful in this time of Brian's family, for his dear wife and partner Madeline, for sons Colin and Sean and their wives Angela and Kelly, for grandchildren Jade, Tyler, and Charlize, for his mother Sylvia and parents-in-law Peter and Joan, for sister Pam and husband Gary, and for the sister and brother-in-laws, nephews and nieces and their families, and for the many, many dear friends, that they might find comfort and support at this time. Hear in the silence our prayers. And so in the rising of the sun and its going down, we remember Brian. In the rustling of leaves and in the beauty of autumn, we remember Dad. In the glowing of the wind and the chill of winter, we remember Grandpa. In the opening of buds and the rebirth of spring, we remember him. In the blueness of the sky and in the warmth of summer, we remember Brian. In the beginning of the year and when it ends, we remember him. So long as we live, he too shall live, for he is now a part of us. Amen. We're a church, so we don't do Eric Clapton very well. However, when we were putting this service together, we wanted to sing something that really speaks to the spirit in life, and nothing better, I think, in our music than the song that we will sing now. And I hope that you will join us in singing "We Are Marching in the Light of God." That Mag has asked if I would read, and then I will do a commendation and blessing. These are her words. I cannot thank everyone here enough. Each and every one of you here has shown encouragement and love, not just now, but in the past, for Brian and I. I want you to know we are surrounded by such precious love and support. Words cannot express my love and appreciation for each and every one of you. 39 years ago, June 14th, Brian and I were married. The words we spoke, the commitment Brian and I made before God was that what our love and faith was built on. I would do anything for Brian. I loved him to the bottom of my soul, even darning his socks. Thank you. Blessings to each and every one of you. Holy One, great mystery, source of all that is, we have come here to remember and to celebrate the life of Brian. We have shared stories as we mark his passing. And now, God, we commend your child, Brian, to your eternal care. His spirit embraced in your spirit and in ours. And as you go from this place, may the love of God embrace you, the light of Christ guide you, and the blessed Spirit fill you. Amen.
They asked me to videotape, so. Can I see your